Okay, so good morning, afternoon. It's kind of in between. Happy lunchtime. We are today. We're going to be starting on week 5, and week 5 is going to consist of doing another value study. This time as a self-portrait for a portfolio assignment, and then you will be doing more value-related drawings for your sketchbook exercise. So today I wanted to briefly go over how to start those assignments. I do have videos and assignment sheets already posted in the week 5 folder on eCampus for you to follow along with. But I know in the demo for the portfolio assignment, I was working on a smaller piece of paper. So I was going to show you how to work with a larger piece of paper, and I'll be providing more information on eCampus later to help with that as well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so we can go over a few things first. Okay, so for week 5, I added that folder. I think it was Saturday. I had created that so you could all go ahead and start looking ahead. This weekend, I worked pretty much nonstop. So I know some of you sent me emails about how busy you are, and I totally understand. It's a nonstop clock for me. I've worked all day Saturday grading, and I ended up grading all day Saturday, and then until 5 a.m. I graded all my 6 classes. So I did that just so I could get your progress reports out. We're officially at like a 4th point of the semester. So those progress reports, I sent a message out about those as well. Those are just to kind of give you a heads up of where you stand currently. We have many assignments left, but some students kind of will get behind and then they just never kind of get caught up. Or some think that there's some saving grace thing at the end that's going to let them pass the class, and that's not always the case. So we want you to be successful in all of your classes, but to get the credit for the course, you have to complete the work. So we can't grade anything that's not there, and it's not fair to the other students that are meeting the deadlines and working, each week. So it's kind of a reminder of just telling you you're doing a good job, or hey, you may want to, consider, is this class what you need right now, or can you get caught up? Can you, stay focused the rest of the semester, or what other options are out there? So there'll be another one of those towards the end of the semester as we get closer to the drop date. So you'll get another one. But I also try to keep my grades pretty current in eCampus so you can see a running average that way. In my morning class, I was telling them back when I was in school, in my first couple of years at a community college, it was before, professors used email, or I think the internet was around, but most people weren't using it. I didn't have a computer at home or anything like that. And so I had a student ask me, well, how did you keep track of your grades? And the honest truth is we got a syllabus the first day of class that had the grade breakdown in it. And then we turned in all like physical assignments and took tests and stuff in class because nothing was done online. And we had to write down, our teachers would give us our papers back or our drawings, and we would have to write our grades down and then usually give the work back because they would have to hang on to it for proof. They had no other records like we do now. And so you had to keep track of your own grades and put them in the right category, on the syllabus. I remember writing my grades on the syllabus, and then you would have to average your own grades. And then at the end of the semester, about a week after the semester ended, you would have to go up to the college and go to your professor's office door. And on the professor's office door, they would have a list of all of their classes. And instead of using your name, they would use your social security number. And you would find your social security number, and then you would have an A, B, C, or D, or F. And that's the only grade you got. No explanation, no progress report, or anything like that. So we've come a long way, and we try to provide a lot of resources to you all to help you be successful and to keep you updated with what you need to be doing. And it's a lot more than has been done, over the last several decades in higher education. So please take advantage of, the elaborate instructions, guidelines. You have everything at your fingertips to be successful. So please take advantage of that and realize that, we can want you to be successful as much as we can, but until you decide that you're going to do the work and you're going to be successful, there's not much else that really can be done. Okay, so keep up. I hope we have a strong rest of the semester, and I look forward to seeing more of your drawings as we go along. So those of you that had turned in some of the portfolio drawings, I went ahead and graded those too and gave you feedback. Some of you did really well. And so I didn't recommend changing anything, and others I kind of gave you tips that if you wanted to resubmit it before midterm, that you could do that again. Okay, so this week we're starting another sketchbook assignment for this week, and then we're going to be starting a self-portrait. You saw several examples of those in the value lecture from last week, I believe it was. And so we're going to talk about that, and then some alternatives for the drawing 2 students. Okay. And then Wednesday, I'll just kind of be here. Wednesday will be sort of, all of these are optional because I always post the recordings for you all. But Wednesday, I'll just stay around from like 11:30 to 12 to see if other people show up. And if they do, I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, you all will be able to reach me, through Remind app or email. Okay, so this week, the only thing that is due by Sunday is your sketchbook exercise number 5. And then, of course, the portfolio self-portrait assignment. You could turn it in by the end of the week, but you have until October 25th to submit that. All right. So same as always, you have your links to our online sessions here. And then you have this week's sketchbook assignment, and then this week's portfolio larger drawing assignment. Okay. So for the sketchbook assignment, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. All right, so for this assignment, you're going to just be doing 3 drawings this week. You're going to do a drawing of an egg, a value study of an egg on a white piece of paper, and then a value study of a glass with a spoon in it on top of a white piece of paper. And notice it says fill the page, so that's 1 drawing per page. Okay, some of you in your sketchbooks, you were putting multiple drawings per page for previous times when it said 1 drawing per page. So make sure you always read the instructions. I try to think ahead and put every information that you need to have for that. So this is with your graphite pencils. Each of these 2 drawings is worth 25 points each. And I'm going to show you how to do this in a moment. And there were also examples of these 2 drawings in the value PowerPoint. So if you need to go back and watch that, you can to see some successful student examples. Then the 3rd drawing you're going to do is to create 3 value scales in your sketchbook. And these are going to be each 1 by 7 inches, and they'll each have 7 1-inch squares in them. And you're going to do a value scale with graphite, charcoal, and then 1 with hatching. Okay, and I'm going to step-by-step show you exactly how to do that in just a moment. So if you're have troubles with rulers and things like that, I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. All right, so only 3 drawings. That's not a lot. But these, because they are value studies, they're going to take a little bit more time. So just because there's only 3, please don't wait until next Sunday and try to rush it. You need to do spread them out throughout the week so that you can work and take your time, because these are drawings that are going to be a little bit more time consuming, even though they are small. Okay, so that is your sketchbook assignment for this week. And then for the self-portrait assignment, this one is probably one of my favorite assignments because students usually get really excited about it. So just like we did last week with the value study and we toned the paper, this week we're going to do that, and we're going to do a self-portrait working from a photo. Okay, so I have for you all of the information explaining exactly how to do this with 18 by 24 inch paper. So please read through, and it will tell you exactly what to do. So a lot of times students get really confused about the measuring. and I really don't know why, because it's listed, right here on the paper, and I'm going to go over it with you in the demo. Okay. Now, I have an example of a student working on this from a previous class, and then this was a successful one from, I think, last semester that one of my Drawing 2 students did. This one is actually white chalk on black paper. So for the Drawing 2 students, some of the things you could try, I know last week we talked about different color paper. So Drawing 2, you could use a different color paper on this one, but I still want it to be black and white. So you could use like a gray paper with white chalk and black charcoal, or you could use black paper with white chalk, or you could just try it again with white paper, like the Drawing 1 students, whichever you feel most comfortable with. Okay. For all Drawing 1 students, this is going to be a self-portrait. For Drawing 2, since you have done this before, you can choose to do a self-portrait again, or if you would like to do a portrait of someone else, that's an option too. You can just choose to draw someone else. But Drawing 1, I want it to be a self-portrait. Okay. So those are the instructions, and then I do have a video here. This is from this summer, and I wrote a note here that says my demo is smaller. You're going to use your 18 by 24 drawing paper, and then I put the option for the Drawing 2 students to use other color paper if they choose to. Now, because my demo is smaller, I did the same steps, and so you'll be able to watch that. But today I'm going to show you how to start that again. I'm not going to finish the whole drawing, in this one session, but I'll show you how to start it again with the 18 by 24 paper in case you are confused about that. Okay, so that is for this week. I think that's everything that you needed to see on eCampus. Okay, and let's see, close this. All right, so first I'm going to show you how to do the sketchbook setup. So let me switch over to my little side camera. And I apologize if I seem low energy today. I think I slept like 3 or 4 hours last night and about the same the night before. So I haven't had a day off since January. I know a lot of you said you're working full time and going to school, and that's the way it's been my whole life. And since we've been online, and since my dean retired, I'm having to basically kind of serve as dean and faculty at the same time. So I feel you on the busyness, but hopefully things will calm down soon, and at least we always have art to kind of escape into, and it does help, that's for sure. All right, so let me share the camera, and let's see. Okay, so you can see my little side camera now, and I'm going to turn off my overhead light so I can kind of illustrate what I'm wanting you to do in your sketchbook. All right, now I do have some light coming in. I have many blinds and they're closed, but there's still some light coming from that. But then I do have a lamp that's coming down at about a 45-degree angle. And then I have a white piece of paper here on my table. So for your drawing with the egg, you're going to, this is just a regular egg, you're going to put that on a piece of paper. Whoops. We're about to make scrambled eggs if I'm not careful. All right, so you can see whenever you have multiple lights turned off and you just have the one light source coming in, you can see the cast shadow and all the other values on the egg. And so, and you can turn it whichever way you prefer, it doesn't matter. And then in your sketchbook, you're going to fill the page with this view. So, all of this area, the cast shadow and everything, that should fill your whole page. So when it says no robin eggs are really small. Okay, so you want to make this egg like this big, you know, like well, you can't see my hands, but you want to make the egg, you know, big in your sketchbook and fill the page. All right, and then it's going to be a value study, so I don't want to see any harsh lines. And there is an example in the value PowerPoint for you to go back and look. But this is a common exercise. If you are vegan and you don't have eggs, you could use a light bulb if you'd rather use a light bulb instead of a egg. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. If you want to get creative with the lighting, if you don't have a lamp or something to use, try turning off all your lights and having a candle to one side, and that will give you a really soft lighting effect as well. So you can kind of play around with that. Okay, so one drawing will be an egg on a piece of white paper or a light bulb. All right, and then the other one is to take a glass with a spoon in it, and I forgot to palette knife kind of looks like a spoon. So just pretend that this is a spoon, and it doesn't say which way. So if you want to draw it on the paper, you know, and have it at an angle, whatever you want, but you'll set it up. And the reason we're putting the white paper underneath the object is that way we'll be able to see the cast shadow from the objects, okay? And the reason we're drawing glass and a spoon is because I want to see, a lot of students say that it's hard to draw glass or reflective objects. And so I want you to practice with that thinking of value. So you notice in this, because it's on white paper, I see grays, I see darker values, I see cast shadows, and so you can draw, like I see highlights, you know, along here. So you're going to draw what you see, and you can draw glass, okay? So that's what you're going to be practicing with that drawing, is a glass object and a reflective object together on top of a white paper. Again, you're going to draw on your whole page of sketchbook paper with your pencils, and you're going to try to create that whole range of value without putting any lines in it. So try to be as smooth and take your time as much as possible. Okay. And then whoops, got to remember to put that egg back in the refrigerator. All right, so then I'm going to just use this to do the value scales on, and I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. Let me turn on my overhead light again. Okay, so for this exercise, it is going to require you to do a little bit of measuring, and then you're going to have to be doing some shading with different media, your graphite charcoal, and then doing some hatching or cross hatching. Okay. And for drawing two, instead of doing the hatching or cross hatching, if you want to try doing stippling, which is tiny dots, you could do that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to measure this. So you can do all three of these on the same page in your sketchbook. If you're worried about being messy, you could do them on separate pages, but I'm going to leave it up to you. Okay. So for the assignment, I've just got a ruler here. My ruler's kind of dirty. I've had this one for quite a while. So I'm just going to measure, the measurements were 7 inches by 1 inches. So I'm going to just start out with a pencil, very light pencil. I'm just going to draw a line on one side so that I have a point to measure from, because you don't want your value scale to go right to the edge of the paper. So from that line, I'm going to measure 7 inches. Let me just scoot this over. All right, so from this edge, I'm going to measure 7 inches and make a mark at the top. And then I'm going to measure 7 inches from the bottom. And then I'm going to make another mark here. Okay, so now this space in between is 7 inches, which is what we wanted for the length of the rows. that we're creating for the value scale. Now, I know I'm not going to need the whole page for all of these. So just like before, I'm going to draw a line at the top just as a guide to start from. I'm going to try to make it parallel to the side of the paper. Okay. And so then from that line, and I'll try to make it to where you can see, I'm just going to measure an inch. Another, like I'm going to measure basically every inch. So I want 1, 2, and then 3 value scales with an inch in between. So that way I won't be bumping them right next to each other where they could be messy. So then on this other side, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to measure every inch. So 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to connect those across, and that's what's going to make my value scales. Okay. We're going to outline this in marker just so that it's more permanent before we start adding our different media. And I apologize for the background. I mean, there's someone else working in my house in the room next door. So, okay, so I have 1, 2, 3 rows going across. And now I'm just going to outline, well, I'm going to go ahead and put in the 1-inch marks for the different gradations that we're going to have. So it said 7 different squares. I'm going to make a mark at the top across. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. So just every mark, every inch. Oops. And always do all this in pencil first, just so if I make a mistake, I can correct it. Now I'm just very lightly, because these are going to be, I'm going to leave these in the value scales, but I'm doing it very lightly just so I know where to kind of gradate to the next darker value. So I'm lining up each one, and just in those 3 rows, I'm going to do this. All right. Now, when I outline this in marker, it will make it easier to erase the other extra pencil lines and stuff that we have. Okay, so now I have my 3 rows, and then I have all the sections. So now I'm just going to outline the main border of each one with a marker, and I'm just using like a permanent micron pen to do that. Now I'm not going to outline the middle lines because I don't want those to be that dominant. Okay, and so I'm going to, and this piece of paper is the same size as your sketchbook, so they'll all 3 fit. I just tore it out so that you could see a little bit better as I did the demo. And if you want to do something fun with your egg drawing, one semester I had a student draw the egg, and then they did a 3rd extra drawing. They fried the egg, and then they drew the fried egg. So it was kind of like revenge on the still life object, if you will. I did that once too. When we get to color, we're going to be drawing, colorful objects. And one semester I made a still life of apples that the students drew, and then they had to critique like the next class. And so I took all the apples home, made like apple pies with them. So it was kind of fun to draw the apples and then um, reuse them. And whenever you're outlining something in marker, you always want to use a ruler. So sometimes students think, well, I drew it straight with a pencil. So whenever I follow a line, I'll just follow that line and it'll be straight. But your hands are usually still kind of shaky. So it does help to still use a ruler to follow along. Alright, so now I'm going to take my vinyl eraser and I'm just going to erase all the excess pencil. Alright, so now you can see I have 3 perfect 1 inch by 7 inch rows for my value scales. And one's going to be in graphite, one will be in charcoal, and then one will be in, I'm just going to do mine in hatching. Okay. And I'll show you some examples of cross-hatching and stippling for drawing 2 if you want to choose to do one of those. Now for the first square, in each value scale, you're going to leave that one blank. And that's because we want like white and then gradually to get darker. Now, a lot of people, their instinct is to work from dark to light, but you can always get darker, but you can't get lighter again with all of the media. So it's always best actually to go light to dark. And so I'm going to show you a really simple way to do so. And I'm going to move my camera to this side since I'm right-handed. I don't want my hand to be in the way the whole time. So this top one is the graphite, and you can see I have all my graphite pencils here. So you're going to want to start with your H pencil. You may have like a 2H or 4H pencil. Remember, those are going to be the harder ones that aren't going to be very dark. And so what you're going to want to do is hold the pencil towards the end. If you hold it like this, you're going to want to make lines, right? But if you hold it more at the end, then you won't be applying a lot of pressure. And don't worry about going outside of the lines because we can always erase, okay? So what I'm going to do is just using the side of the pencil, I'm not applying any pressure at all. I'm just letting the pencil guide itself, and I'm going to fill up this whole row with the lightest value possible. Because if you do that, you'll gradually be getting darker. So try to go the same direction too. If you change directions, that sometimes will create a little bit of an overlap of your lines, and then that will, of your shading, and that will make it look a little bit darker. And if you go outside of the edges, don't worry. Like I said, we can clean that up with an eraser. So I'm just going to continue doing this. It's really relaxing. Like, I know you all have deadlines. I have so many deadlines too. I have to work on a lot of stuff later this afternoon that I was working on all day. But you know, yeah, I hope that with these assignments, even though it is work and homework, that you can also find kind of the therapeutic and sort of meditative quality of the repetition of art making, and kind of get lost in the process. Because to me, this is just like so relaxing, and I would much rather do this at the end of my day than watch TV. But usually I do both. I have like the TV playing that I listen to, and then I draw on my sketchbooks. Because sometimes that's like the only creative time I get, each day besides doing these demos for you all. So you can see up close, like there's no lines. This paper is a little textured, so you may see a little bit of the texture of this paper coming through, but that's just natural. It's um, some people, usually the more expensive like drawing paper has a thicker tooth to it, so it can hold more things. So you can see the same value all the way across. So now I'm moving up to an HB pencil. That one's going to be, that's the same as a number 2 pencil, like you take your test with. And so on the third one, I'm going to start there, and I'm going to do the same thing. And you can see I'm holding the pencil in the same place, but I'm not adding any more pressure than before. And this is where you can get good at controlling your pressure. So try not to, try to hold it at the other end of the pencil, so you can just let the pencil glide back and forth, slightly overlapping. And you can see it gradually got darker. So we're going to do this all the way down. Okay, and so now that's all even. Then I'm going to go up to a 2B pencil. And you can do this with, like, an HB can create the full range, but when you have these different pencils, use them, because just the weight of themselves dragging on the paper is going to make it darker. So when you try to use just like, let's say, a number 2 or HB pencil, you're gonna have to press down more, or like do several layers, and that's where you can kind of get into, oops, I pressed down too hard in one little area, and then you kind of have to do it all, you know, over again, because it's hard to erase and then fill back an area, really small like that. So you can see that gradually got darker. Then I think I have like a 3B. So each time you just go up to the next softer pencil. So the higher the number next to the B, means the softer it is, and so that means it's going to naturally get darker. And then I have a 5B. So I think we're here now. And you can see that 5B is really soft. Right when I pressed it down, it just felt, I could feel the texture of it was a lot mushier. And then the last one, the highest one I have is, I think it's a 7B. And so for the last one, you want to try to make it as dark as possible. And with this one, sometimes I will overlap just because you want to try to get it super dark. Plus this paper is kind of textured, so I was trying to get some of the graphite down into some of the grooves. But you can see now how this gradually gets darker. So that's what you what you want without seeing any harsh lines at all. All right. And so then I could take my eraser on my pencil or my vinyl eraser, and I can come along on the edges and just really clean that up before I spray it with fixative so that I don't have smudges everywhere, because it does look better when it's nice and clean, right? When you take your time to do this, why do you want to leave it, messy? All right. So that didn't take too long. It's kind of relaxing. So that is the graphite one. Now for the charcoal, it is super messy, so you're gonna have to be careful about that. I'm just gonna break off like a tiny piece of the willow charcoal, and what I'm gonna do is just kind of smudge it all over, starting with the second one. And then I'm gonna use my finger and just try to smudge this out evenly. So the first one, you just want white, and then you want just like your lightest value of the willow charcoal. And then I'm just going to try to get these all even. Then come back, and the willow charcoal, you can get it darker just like we did when we toned our paper. So for the rest of these, I'm going to just add a little bit more willow charcoal to make it a little bit darker. And then at that point, that's probably about as much willow charcoal that the paper will hold. And so at that point, you're going to want to start using compressed charcoal. So you could use the bars, or if you have a charcoal pencil, you could use your charcoal pencil. Okay, so I'm going to try to get one of the softer ones that I have. Whoops. Of course, they're all dull. But that's okay. So here, I'm just going to, this one's kind of hard. Actually, I think I'm going to use the stick. So I'm just going to lightly rub some of the compressed charcoal here. Try to make these get a little bit darker. Then come on the next bubble, add some more. Work that into the paper. And then these two, add a little bit more. And then for the last one, just really try to get into all of those grooves so it just looks nice and flat and black. And I'm just trying to even these out a little bit. All right, and then the same thing, I would dust off any excess charcoal, and then use your erasers to go back and clean the edges. And then at that point, I would go ahead and take it outside and spray it with fixative before you do the hatching or cross hatching or stippling, because you don't want to get charcoal on that area that's supposed to be really clean. And if you have like little eraser smudges, I usually take like a little paintbrush and will kind of dust those off with that, because it helps keep it from smudging like with your fingers if you use your fingers. And then I could probably come in with my smaller eraser and clean that out just a little bit more. Okay, so for the last one, my hands are kind of dirty. I'm trying to wipe them off just a little bit. All right, so for the last one, I'm gonna do hatching. Whoops, hatching for the last one, and for that, hatching means like lines that are next to each other. And I know you all got some practice with that with last week's exercise as well. So with this one, I'm going to just use lines that go straight up and down. You could do them at an angle if you want, but what I'm going to do is just keep about the same width apart from each other, and I'm going to do that all the way down. Okay. I apologize. My neighbors all decide to do their yards when I'm teaching my classes, and then my dogs start barking. And then let's do some more. All right, and then I do the same all the way across, and then I come back and I just kind of like fill in between to put those closer. And then I just keep doing the same thing. So I'll take this all the way down and then do the next one and just keep going and layering more and more in until it gets darker. And I have one I can show you that I finished for another class. So this one, my design class had to do quite a bit more, but they did hatching, cross hatching, and then this was stippling, the tiny dots. This one takes quite a bit of time, but it does look really good when you do it the right way. And this was the graphite shading here. So you're just going to do 3 though for this class, unless you want to try more. And that's going to be your sketchbook assignment. This plus the drawing of the egg, and then the drawing of the glass with the spoon inside of it. All right. So